Joining us now, she's the head coach at Belmont, and coming off a fresh 33-win season where they were at the OVC championship game, and now are be moving to the MVC, which we'll talk to her about. A good friend of the show. We haven't had her on in a while. She's been busy building a winner up there in Belmont. I speak of Laura Matthews. Well, we've had good luck since when you come on. So welcome back.
Thanks. It's been a while since we've talked on here, and you guys have always been really good to me. So I'm grateful to be here and excited to talk about what we're doing at Belmont.
I remember the last time we had you on the show, you were excited about the move to Belmont, Nashville. You were familiar with the area, you had ties there. Uh, I'm curious. You had a great year last season, 33 wins, was on the cusp of the conference championship. Are you almost ahead of schedule in a way to where you thought you would be when you took over?
I didn't really have a schedule. It was, I'm not, I think people are very goal setting heavy, and I'm a little bit more of let's try to be the best version of ourselves today. So I didn't really have a timeline in place, and I knew we needed to get better. And we were able to get better quickly. I think the first year we laid a really good foundation. We didn't necessarily rack up a ton of wins my first year at Belmont, but we instilled a lot of really good habits. The culture was in a good place with a lot of the women we had in our program, the school. And so I think that kind of set that foundation for what we were able to do last year. And we had a lot of really good positive things happen within our program last year that led to definitely some steps forward. And I think we surprised some people. I think at times we surprised ourselves as well. But in terms of the schedule, not exactly sure what the schedule looked like because I tried not to think too far ahead with that.
What was the turning point? Where did you notice that the turning point for the pro? Like, hey, we're heading in the right direction. We're starting. It's clicking.
I think our first weekend out, we went to Florida Gulf Coast, and we played some good teams. We played, Florida Gulf Coast, Boston College, Memphis, and we were down there, and we were just like we played well. We weren't, we had some good energy with us. We had some newcomers who played really well. We had some of our returners who looked like they had made some improvements on where they had been the year before, and I was like, all right, we got a little edge to us. We got some energy. And I think we just had a little bit of a feistiness to us. I think we really embraced that, that idea that we were playing with house money. Like we had nothing to lose. And we were able to do that sort of underdog thing a little bit last year. Nobody really, was out there in those preseason tournaments throwing their ace against us because, we were Belmont. We weren't anybody who had a rich storied softball tradition at that point. And that's part of our task is we're building that. We don't come from this rich history of softball. There have been a couple good Belmont teams here and there, but there's not this storied tradition. So we want to write that tradition.
So obviously, get to the OVC championship. There in a battle. What a great battle you had with Murray State all year. Really, you were the two best teams all year, basically. And what do you when you look back at that year? What's the thing that you kind of told your team going into this year that you learned from last year?
Yeah, Murray, heck of a program, heck of a team last year. We had some really fun games against them that I think is what you would hope for out of college softball. I think we were really excited that we were able to compete at the level that we competed. Like you said, I think some people considered that we maybe arrived a little bit ahead of schedule and things like that. I also think we looked back on it and we had a lot of people within our program who are returners this year. And we lost in that championship game and they were like, we could have won this thing. A couple of things we do a little bit differently, a couple of things break right. We make a couple adjustments to their pitching a little bit better than we do, and we're playing in regionals. So I think that piece of it was big. It wasn't oh, we're just happy to be here. It was, hey, we're proud of what we accomplished, but we can do better and we have more there. And so, there wasn't anything I needed to say to them. I think the people within our program know what we're capable of. And we just have some women in our program who believe in themselves and their teammates. So I think that's the exciting thing to me. It wasn't just a congratulations, let's pat ourselves on the back. Everybody tell us what a great year we had. It's, yeah, we're proud of that. Now what's next? Let's do it.
You've got a good core coming back. Let's talk about this team 2023. Let's start in the circle, obviously. Big time pitching you had last year and returns. And just give me your overall thoughts for those that haven't followed you about your pitching staff.
Yeah, we've got two returners coming back in our pitching staff. Emma Summers ended up throwing, I would say, a lot. She led us in innings, led us in most of our stats. Really had some huge wins for us in the circle, just absolutely steady. She's a rock for us. Alex Klesse, also, they're both juniors. So Alex is coming back and she adds a lot of experience to our staff, good leader for us as well. So those two are going to really be the veterans of our staff. And then we've got two freshman pitchers. So we've got a little bit of experience in our staff, a little bit of youth, but we believe that our pitching has a chance to be the strength of our team.
What made Summers so good?
Um, those who are baseball fans, I think her baseball equivalent, and I'm a Cubs fan, so anyone who is well versed in recent Cubs history, she's like Kyle Hendricks, peak Kyle Hendricks, not this past year's Kyle Hendricks. Locates, spins. It's one of those things where you walk back to the dugout, and you're like, why are we not hitting this girl? I think she's got a little bit of that to her, but she just knows how to pitch. Her stuff, you're not going to watch and be like, whoa, she throws super hard. That's not her game, but she knows how to pitch. She's smart in the circle, spins, locates, and has a good game plan with what she's doing. So she's just confident out there, and I don't think anything rattles her. So I think that's where, she was able to give us a lot of confidence behind her because we could see it in her every day.
Offensively, return a good core. Talk about some of the leaders offensively and some of the new faces you think that could contribute to the offense.
Yeah. Oh boy. We've got Kristen Green coming back. She was one of our top hitters last year. So she's got, a lot of pop in her bat. She's just sort of like our like muscle, if you will. Like she is just relentless. She's aggressive. And she just sort of gives us a ton of energy through what she does. We've got a couple of our young, fast kids, Emma Barnes, Bayenzio. They cause a little bit of havoc on the bases, high on base. Emily Cockrell, she's a returner coming back for us. She was on the all OVC freshman team. She had a great OVC tournament for us also. She started for us at third base last year, and I think she's only just scratching the surface of what she can be. Abby Ledbetter, just absolutely steady for us for 2 years in terms of high on base percentage, really good at bats. I'm sure I'm missing somebody, Audrey Lyle. So we've got some good returners coming back, and we've got a whole host of new kids too. We got a really great transfer coming in from, I coached her at Wright State, and then she was at the University of Dayton, and now I'm fortunate to be coaching her game again. Her name's Grace Gressley. So she's coming off of a really solid season at Dayton. And then we've got a bunch of freshmen that we're excited to see out on the field as well. And we also think we've got a bunch of our returners who have just kind of stepped up their game over the summer. Some who maybe didn't get the number of at-bats last year that they were hoping for. And we've seen this growth and this improvement over the summer and throughout this fall. So I think we're going to have a few familiar faces in the lineup, but I think we're also going to have some people that nobody's going to have a scout on, who are going to be able to make an impact.
You mentioned Kristen Green and her impact. 8 homers, 42 RBIs, 322 last year. Is that a peak Chris Bryant, or are we going Rizzo here? Or are we going to keep the Cubs theme going here? Who would you compare?
Oh, man. Oh, that's a good question. I think she's a little more Wilson Contreras at the plate.
Okay.
I think she's going to take her cuts, that like intensity. She's got that like never take a pitch off, like run through a wall vibe to her. I think she's actually mostly Wilson Contreras. If I were going to make a Cubs comparison.
It's pretty good. Pretty good. Now, that was your last year in the OVC. You're moving into the MVC this year, Missouri Valley, with Murray State and Illinois of Chicago. What's your reaction to this move, and what kind of transition is this going to be for your program?
I've always said, since I took over the Belmont program, I said, we need to get better in the OVC. We need to get better in the Missouri Valley. I think who we're playing, it doesn't matter. Your goal for your program is to get better and be the best version that you can be. So who we're playing, that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who we're going to go out and play week in, week out. Now, looking around the Missouri Valley, there's not an off weekend. You can't be like, oh, we can take a deep breath this weekend because this team stinks. Like, that is not part of the Missouri Valley. So that's something that you can't get excited about where you are in the standings and then take a deep breath. I think that part of it is something that we're going to have to learn. And I think every program in the country goes through that. 56 games is a lot of games, and you're going to have the ups and the downs. But I mean, it's just an incredibly deep, talented conference. My first reaction when we were moving is, we're going to be cold. We're going to be colder. that was my first reaction to it all. And, it's a lot more, the geography of it is a lot more spread out for us. And I think those were some of the first reactions to it, but we needed to get better in the OVC. We need to get better in the Missouri Valley, and whoever we're going to play, we're going to go give them our best shot, regardless of who we've got on the schedule.
A lot of schools get to come to Nashville too. Are you gonna be like a host when you show them around in Nashville when they come there? A little different city there from most of those schools at the Valley.
Yeah, I think that was one of the things that was a big draw to the Missouri Valley about bringing Belmont in as a school. Is we're in, arguably, in my opinion, obviously a little biased, the best city in the country. We've got everything you could hope for in a city. So it's a fun weekend, I think, for a lot of schools. Not that you get a ton of downtime to go hang out and see the sights in the middle of a conference weekend, but I don't think, you've got an endless number of restaurants, cool things to do when you're in the city. But having a place like Belmont and Nashville in your conference, I think just elevates the profile of the conference. And we have a lot of sports who, I think within our athletic department that are going to be able to compete right away within the league. And I think our administration wouldn't have made this move if they didn't think that we could go in and be successful.
Does this change in the conference going to the MVC? Does that affect your non-conference scheduling at all? From a formula standpoint, whether it be budget or just competition standpoint, because you're in a bigger league, stronger league, 12 teams, all of them which can make the conference tournament. Top 4 get a bye. I know Southern Illinois will be hosting this year. The regular season series will be a single game. It's Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So a lot of changes there. Any effects on that as far as your non-conference schedule?
Not really. I think for us, it's going to be really interesting to see how things shake out over the next few years with conference realignment in terms of how it impacts our PI, how it impacts, at-large berths and things like that. So I think we're just scratching the surface and beginning to understand how that's going to work. For us, you've got to go in and you've got to be prepared for conference season. So you've got to put yourself in the best position you can be to win the tournament. I know the Missouri Valley's gotten a couple at large bids in the last few years. I think everything's about to change for everybody, and I'm not sure how that's going to look going forward. Is it going to be something where Power Fives, as these conferences grow into super conferences, really scoop up all of that large bids, or are there opportunities for mid majors? And that's something I think that's just to be determined. So our job in scheduling is to prepare our team to be the best that we can be. And I think sometimes you look at your team and say, hey, this might not be a great year. We might need to go play this type of schedule. There are other years it's like we got to go play the best. I think we're in a position in our program where we want to schedule difficult teams. I think we want to challenge ourselves at the highest level that we can, and that's the type of roster that we're building. So we're going to go schedule great teams. Obviously, travel is part of the picture with scheduling, and budget's always going to be in mind to some degree, but I think we've got the support from our administration to say, go be the best that you can be.
When describe, you're going to be facing a lot of new conference teams that you're not as familiar with, or maybe you are somewhat familiar with that I'm not aware of. What is that going to be like? Prep, kind of learning the new teams you're going to be playing. They're going to be your conference rivals.
Yeah, I mean, we played some of them in non-conference in the last couple of years. I came from a school in the Midwest, so I have some familiarity with some of the programs. Also recruited the areas that, they've drawn from pretty heavily. So we have familiarity with them, maybe not to the extent that we do, obviously, our past conference opponents and things like that. But same goes for them against us, right? There's something beautiful about going in and not having baggage against opponents, and you don't have your upperclassmen saying, oh, remember that time freshman year when we played this team and this kid did this. We get to go in and we get to learn and we get to be who we are, and I think there's something great about that. Obviously the scouting is you have a little bit more legwork to do because you don't exactly remember much about any of the hitters or the pitchers and things like that, so there's a little bit more legwork on our end as a coaching staff. But I think there's something really great about the unknown and all the promise, and our players just get to go be them. They get to be themselves.
Last time we had you on the show, we're speaking with Laura Matthews, Belmont head coach here on In the Circle. The last time we had you on, you just became the Belmont head coach. we had you on prior to that with the whole Wright State situation with the program being dropped and everything like that. I'm curious, how are you today, a different coach, if you are a different coach or maybe a different person than you were when you were at Wright State?
That's a good question. I think I learned a lot of lessons through that. And I know a lot of the players that um, we had at Wright State learned the lessons as well. You can't take anything for granted. I thought I was going to be there a long time building a program, and all of a sudden everything changes. I think a lot of people experience that with COVID. Your lives are upended, you lose your job, you have to move, whatever that looks like. So, when I think of, oh, this is what I want our program to look like in 4 years or 5 years, it's like, who knows what's going to happen in a month? Who knows what's going to happen tomorrow? I'll never forget sitting in the airport the Phoenix airport on the way back from Arizona State in March of 2020 and thinking that people that had masks on were crazy. And then 3 days later, our lives changed forever. So I think I'm reminded of that constantly. You never know. And so your plans are just that, they're plans, and they're not necessarily going to turn out that way. I think I've adapted some of that into my coaching style in terms of just trying to soak up every moment that you can. I've also become a mom since then. And if that doesn't change you to be a little bit more go with the flow, I don't know what can. You just have to be a little bit more adaptable. And I think that's something that I've learned. I'm a little less stubborn. I'm a little less, this is the way that you do it. I think I see a little bit more nuance to things. But I'm also just getting old. So that goes along with that as well.
I don't know about that. It's a little strong there. Let's talk about Nashville, because I know when we spoke, we talked a lot at length about the city of Nashville. You've been there now a couple of years. I'm curious, have you been to a Predators game or a Titans game? If so, give me a description there, and then maybe some other areas you've gotten a chance to check out in that area.
Yeah, I've been to several Preds games. I actually interned for the Preds when I was in college, so I'm very familiar with that. Although I am a Blackhawks fan, so there's a little bit of a rivalry there.
Oh.
Although the Blackhawks aren't great right now. Titans, I'm a Titans fan. I'm a Bears and a Titans fan. I allow myself an AFC and an NFC team, so I've been to a couple Titans games. There's just an endless number of things to do here in Nashville. I mean, we've got an awesome AAA baseball team. It's so fun to go watch them. They have a great stadium, so I've enjoyed doing that. Music is back with COVID, kind of some things loosening up here. You can find hundreds of live music acts going every single day down here. I'm really enjoying. I've got a lot of family down here, so I'm spending a lot of time here. But I'm just enjoying being back in a city that's got this vibrant. You can do something different every day if you wanted to. You've got great outdoor stuff here. You've got great restaurants. I eat everything. So I really enjoy the restaurant scene here. My coaching staff, Shannon and Kennedy and I, we talk about food constantly. And I think we try to visit lots of different types of restaurants and enjoy that part of it too.
So wait, you're a Bears and Titans fan.
Yeah, so I'm a Chicago sports fan in general. My family's all from there. Both my parents grew up in the Chicago area. So, when I was growing up here in Nashville, like the Titans came when I was like in middle school, and the Preds came when I was like in 4th or 5th grade. So I'd kind of already started cheering for Chicago sports teams. I grew up with WGN, with the Cubs. So my foundation was in Chicago sports, and I kind of just added on the Nashville sports in addition to what I'd already kind of established.
What do you do if the Bears and the Titans play?
So that's happened. I lean Bears. Yeah.
I'm
married to a Bears fan also. So that's sort of, we've kind of, yeah, I want to say a couple years ago, the Bears and the Titans played in the regular season. So I lean a little bit Bears, but the Bears, there aren't a lot of really fun moments as a Bears fan.
I mean, you're 2-1 as we talk. I mean,
it's a dig into the games a little bit. You're a little less encouraged by it. It's not awesome.
You're a critical fan. I will give you that. I've gotten to know you. You don't just you look in deep in the weeds there, and you point out some of the things that are flaws there. You don't get caught up in the hoopla.
I'm critical, but I'm incredibly loyal also. Otherwise, I could have jumped ship by now. But ride or die.
You sold on Justin Fields?
No, I didn't like the draft pick. I didn't like what they had to give up to get the draft pick. I think it was a lot. It was a lot. And I watched I was living in Columbus at the time, so I watched a lot of Ohio State. Just had a lot of friends who were Ohio State fans and things like that. And I was like, yeah, this guy's okay. but to give up the amount of draft equity and things like that for him, I felt like it was a little bit of an overpay. And it's not like the Bears were a quarterback away. They had deficiencies everywhere on the roster. So I'm like, why don't we just build this a little slowly without giving away all these draft picks? But I'm not the GM, and that GM got fired anyway. So
Yeah, new regime, new defensive coordinator, new head coach is a defensive guy. Any early thoughts on the new head coach?
yeah, I'm okay. Too early to tell, but so far, I mean, they look a little bit more creative, and I'm been impressed. They're relatively disciplined so far. So I'll give them. I've got an open mind with it. So I think they're a little bit in a rebuilding phase, like my baseball team, and every team I cheer for is in a rebuilding phase right now, except hopefully Belmont softball.
Oh, you're the more successful one there. How are you handling the Cubs rebuild?
Poorly. No, there's been a lot of nostalgia the last couple of years with all the guys that, the Anthony Rizzo's, Chris Bryant, Javi Baez, those guys that have moved on to other places, and it kind of lost some of its shine, and it was just a slog. So it was time to rebuild. I do think they've had a couple puzzling moves in there, but I think the rebuild, it was time. Although it hurt. It hurt. And I wish they'd extend Wilson Contreras and a couple things. I'm like, I don't really understand, but those guys know what they're doing more than we do. They've got analytics departments that are just enormous, and they hopefully have a good plan in place. And, hopefully the rebuild doesn't take a long time, and in a couple of years they're back competitive again.
The good news is you did win a World Series 2016. I feel like you still can't, all things considered, considering the history of the Cubs. I mean, can't be that bad.
One of the top 5 days of my life. I wept like a little baby.
Where were you?
I was at my house. It was late because of the rain delay and all that stuff. And I couldn't bring myself to like go anywhere and hang out with anybody because I was just a pile of emotions. So I watched it in my living room, and I just like wept when they won. So it was crazy.
You, Michael Wilbon, a lot of Cubs fans out across the board. I think did John Cusack.
Yeah.
I think there's a big time guest list there.
Matt Mundell, the Evansville head coach, he's a big Cubs fan. So that's something that we've always talked about, and out recruiting and things like that. So I've got a good fellow Cubs fan in the MVC.
That makes sense. Makes sense. I know there's a lot of coaches that are Cubs fans up in the Midwest in particular. So that
absolutely. I'm sure there are more in the MVC as well.
Yeah, there you go. Bonding moment over the new league. I like it. Let me get you out on this. As you now continue in this fall, before you know it, February will come around. What are some of the keys for this team to accomplish their internal goals? Because I know the expectations are high from the outside and internal, and a lot of excitement over the program and the university with the move to the MVC. So what are some of the keys internally for this team to do between now and February and to accomplish their goals?
Yeah, I think we've got a really strong pitching staff. I think being healthy within our pitching staff is really important. I think we do a lot of things really well aggressively. Base running was a huge part of what made us successful last year. So continuing to do that at a high level. And then we've got to develop a little bit of pop in our lineup. I think we've got some pieces there, but when things got tough last year, I think we didn't have enough players with enough pop in our lineup. So making sure that our players that have that capability continue to develop is really big for us. So we've got to become a little bit more of a dynamic offense than we were last year. So we've got the pieces with it. And I think everybody at this time of year feels really good about where their offense could be. But it's September right now. Your offense could be. What is your offense in February, March, April, May? And I think that for us is going to be the huge piece of it is, can we reach our potential with it? Or, are we going to have those hitters that take the step forward? Or are we just going to be like, oh yeah, she's a good hitter, or is she going to be a dynamic hitter? And we've got a few of those that we're excited to watch how they develop, and hopefully we get them there.
That's Laura Matthews, head coach Belmont. Always a pleasure to talk to you. Also, we could just call you Cubs Bears analyst. We'll just have to get you on more often to talk Bears Cubs.
If you ever want to talk Chicago sports, I'm in. Count me in, and we'll have a good time with it.
Well, we definitely may have some ideas for you. But hey, look, congrats on the move. I know it's a great year last year. Great job so far. I know you got more in store. Good luck this way as we go into the season, and thanks for always talking to us, and we'll definitely talk soon.
Thanks for always having me on, and thanks for being such a great advocate for our game and giving us such good coverage. So thank you for all that you do for us.